Welcome to Heart of the Guardians, stories that touch the soul, stir emotions, and remind us of the deep humanity that binds us all. If you love tales of the Old West, love, loss, and redemption, stay with us till the end. He was a lonely cowboy. For 10 long years, he rode the dusty plains of Arizona, with nothing but the sound of wind and the creak of his saddle for company. His name was Ethan Cole, a man whose eyes once held the fire of youth but now carried the weariness of someone who had lost too much. Ethan lived alone on a ranch that stretched over miles of dry earth. Once, laughter had filled this place, the soft voice of his wife, the giggles of 2 little girls chasing chickens by the barn. But that was before the fever came. Before he buried the love of his life beneath the lone oak tree behind the house. After she died, the girls, Mary and June, were sent away to live with their aunt in the city. Ethan couldn't bear to see their mother's eyes looking back at him every day. It broke him, and so he sent them away, promising he'd bring them back when the pain wasn't so raw. But the years passed, and he never did. Now, 10 years later, the house was quiet. The walls carried echoes of the past. And Ethan, now in his 40s, spent his days mending fences, breaking horses, and staring out toward the horizon as if waiting for something, or someone, to come back. One evening, the sky turned gold with sunset. Ethan sat on the porch, pipe in hand, when a cloud of dust rose down the road. A wagon approached. 2 figures sat on it, and as it came closer, Ethan's heart started to pound. It was them, his daughters. Mary, the older one, had her mother's calm grace. June, the younger, had fire in her eyes, just like his. They jumped off the wagon before it even stopped, running toward him, tears streaming down their faces. Ethan froze, the pipe fell from his hand, and then he opened his arms, and they ran into them. He hadn't cried in years. But that night, he did. Behind them stood the wagon driver, a woman. Tall, with long black hair braided down her back, her skin glowing bronze under the fading sun. Her eyes, dark and deep, watched the reunion quietly. Mary turned and smiled. "Pa," she said softly, "this is Nita. She helped us get here." Ethan nodded stiffly. "Ma'am, sir," the woman replied, her voice calm, low, and soft like the whisper of a river. He didn't ask more that night. But as the girls unpacked their things, laughter filling the air again, Ethan couldn't help but notice the quiet strength in Nita's movements. She carried herself with grace, but there was something else, a sadness that mirrored his own. When the stars came out, and the girls were asleep, Ethan went out to the porch again. He found Nita there, sitting silently, looking at the sky. "You're Apache?" he asked gently. She nodded. "White Mountain Band," she said. "My father was a scout. He rode for the army once. Died for them." Ethan looked away. "I'm sorry." Nita's gaze softened. "Everyone has ghosts, cowboy. Yours walk close." Her words struck him. He didn't answer, but she could tell she was right. The next morning, life began to return to the ranch. The girls wanted to help, feeding the chickens, brushing the horses, cooking breakfast. Laughter echoed again through the dusty air, and even Ethan found himself smiling. Nita stayed for a few days, helping around the place. She knew horses, better than most men. Ethan watched her from the corral, amazed at the way even the wildest colt calmed under her hand. "How'd you learn that?" he asked once. "My grandfather taught me," she replied with a small smile. "He said a horse listens to your heart, not your hands." That night, over dinner, Mary and June whispered excitedly. They adored Nita, following her everywhere, asking her to tell stories of her people, tales of mountains, rivers, and spirits that guarded the land. Ethan listened quietly, pretending not to care, but the warmth in his chest told another story. Days turned into weeks. Nita's few days stretched longer. She had nowhere else to go. Her village had been burned during a raid by outlaws. She had escaped with nothing but the clothes she wore and a scar across her arm that she tried to hide. Ethan offered her a room. "Just till you get your bearings," he said. She smiled. "Then I'll work for my keep." He didn't argue. They settled into a rhythm. She tended the horses, taught the girls how to weave baskets, and cooked alongside them. Ethan began to feel alive again, as though the years of loneliness were slowly peeling away. But small towns talk. One afternoon, When Ethan went to town for supplies, the whispers began. "Cole's got an Apache woman living with him," one man sneered. "Ain't right." Ethan ignored it, but the words burned. When he got home, he told Nita what they said. She looked at him, calm and steady. "You ashamed of me, cowboy?" He met her eyes, and shook his head. "No, just. Folks don't understand." Nita smiled sadly. "They never do. My people call it fear. Yours call it pride." The next few days, the tension grew. Someone shot a hole through the ranch gate one night. Another time, Ethan found a dead crow nailed to his barn door, a warning. He was furious. "If they want a fight," he growled, "I'll give them one." But Nita stopped him. "Violence brings more pain," she said. "I've seen too much of it." Then one evening, everything changed. The girls were down by the creek when a group of men rode up. Drunk, loud, and cruel. They were the same ones from town. Ethan was in the barn when he heard the screams. He ran out, shotgun in hand, just as the men tried to grab Nita. "Leave her," he roared. They laughed. "You protecting her now, Cole? Didn't think you'd fall for a red-skinned squaw." The sound of the gun cut through the air. Ethan's shot hit the ground between their boots. "Next one goes higher," he warned. The standoff lasted seconds. Then they turned and rode off, cursing. When the dust settled, Ethan turned to Nita. She was shaking, her braid loose, her eyes bright with tears she refused to shed. He stepped closer. "I'm sorry," he said softly. She looked up at him, her voice breaking. "You have nothing to be sorry for." For the first time, he took her hand. It was small, but strong. And in that simple touch, something shifted. That night, they sat by the fire, silent for a long while. Then Nita spoke. "When I was little," she said quietly, "my mother told me, when two souls are broken the same way, they can heal each other. Maybe that's why I came here." Ethan looked at her, his heart heavy but full. "Maybe that's why my girls found you." And then, without words, he kissed her. It wasn't the passion of youth. It was the slow, aching tenderness of two people who had known too much pain and had finally found peace in each other's arms. Weeks passed. The girls were happier than ever, and Ethan and Nita grew closer each day. She taught him her language, her songs. He taught her how to ride and rope. The ranch began to bloom again. But peace in the West never lasted long. One morning, the sheriff rode in. "Ethan," he said, "those men who came here before, they're back. And they're looking for trouble." That night, Ethan prepared. He sent the girls to the cellar, told Nita to stay inside. But she refused. "I won't hide," she said firmly. "This is my home too." The men came under the cover of darkness, 5 of them. They fired shots at the barn, set fire to a haystack. Ethan shot back, taking cover behind the porch. The battle was short, fierce, and brutal. When it was over, 2 of the attackers lay dead, and the rest fled. Ethan was bleeding from a cut on his shoulder. Nita ran to him, pressing a cloth against it. "You fool," she whispered, tears running down her face. He smiled weakly. "You called me cowboy before. I'll take fool if it means you care." She laughed through her tears. "You stubborn man." From that night on, no one dared come near the ranch again. The story spread, of a cowboy and his Apache woman who stood side by side against hate and fear. Months later, spring came. The land turned green again. And beneath the oak tree, where Ethan's wife had once rested, now grew wildflowers. Ethan often stood there, hat in hand, whispering to the wind. "You'd like her," he'd say quietly. "She brought me back to life." And when he turned, Nita would be there, watching him with that same quiet strength, the same love that had healed them both. Years later, when Mary and June were grown and gone, the ranch still stood, weathered, peaceful, alive. And if you rode past it at sunset, you could sometimes see 2 figures on horseback, a cowboy and an Apache woman, riding side by side into the fading light, as if the world had finally forgiven them. Because love, in the end, always finds its way, even across the harshest deserts of the soul.